Ever since I was a kid, I've always loved acronyms. I don't know why. I just think they're kind of interesting, and they kind of bring a mysterious aspect to a conversation, and sometimes it makes things sound a little bit less serious than they need to be. And when I was 16 years old, I had lost a lot of weight because I stopped drinking soda, and I cleaned up my lifestyle in other ways. Soda was only the beginning of my healthy eating chapter, if you will, of my life. And one day I was sitting in a classroom, and I was really bored. I think the class was a little bit too boring for me. It was one of those classes where I could just sleep every class and still get an A plus. And so I was just jotting on a piece of paper, and I wrote down the word "stop drinking soda," and then I looked at the first letter of each word, and it was SDS. And I don't know why, but I instantly fell in love with that acronym. And then later that day, we were using AOL Instant Messaging at the time. This was before Facebook had been invented. This was before I could go on YouTube and say SDS at people. And I had gone on AOL Instant Messaging to tell all my friends to SDS. And then my friends asked me, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Stop drinking soda." And I just wanted to put a little bit of ease to people that they didn't have to treat stop drinking soda like it was some kind of institution. They could just SDS. And so I don't know if it worked or not, but fast forward 20 years later, a lot of my friends aren't drinking soda, at least not at the levels that they used to drink it at. And the whole country has kind of SDS quite a bit. A huge segment of the population has SDS'd altogether, and I would say a large, even larger pool of people have cut back on. Although I think cutting back, yes, less soda is healthier than more soda. I'm not sure if it's happier though, and I've talked about this in other videos. Okay. Fast forward a couple years later, I had started to lose a lot of weight, and I was starting to do better in my social life. And finally, when I was 19 years old, actually I was 20 years old, when for the first time in my life I kissed a girl. I was trying to brag to a classmate of mine. I think he was around 12, 13, or 14 when he first kissed a girl, so I was a little bit behind, but I still wanted to brag to him. And I opened up AOL Instant Messaging again, and I bragged to him, and he responds with IDC. And I didn't realize that meant I don't care. It took me about 10 seconds to figure that out, which really added to the frustration, because it took me 10 seconds to figure out that what my friend had said was I don't care. It was a very tough journey for me to get to where I was to kissing that girl, and all my friend wanted to say was I don't care. And it's kind of funny because it took 20 years for me to kiss that girl, but not long after that, I hit all sorts of milestones with the girl. I lost my virginity when I was 21, and I went on a very serious date with another girl when I was 23. You know, it wasn't just a movie that time; it was actually a trip. So, and then let's see, when I was 26, a girl wanted to marry me, but at the time I wasn't ready to settle down, and also she wanted children, and that was a tough one to turn down because there were some ulterior motives as well. So I liken the first time I ever kissed a girl to like a major milestone, kind of like the space race. The first time I kissed a girl was like the first man in a suborbital flight. You know, not long after that we were walking on the moon, and that's how I like to look at it. I was at a computer game conference one time, and I had competed in 7 events. And during the contest, I discovered another event that I liked. A few of my opponents were writing an AI program for playing the game 2048, which was crazy one year. I think it was 2015. It was the game had all of a sudden taken off like a rocket. And I looked at my opponent, and I asked him for a copy of the rules so I could see about competing in them next year. And that night I went back to my hotel room, and I quickly wrote an AI engine for 2048, and I entered it the next day. And my opponent at first was in disbelief. He looked at the screen just to make sure I wasn't cheating or anything, and then he shook his head and he went, "You are crazy. And I still remember the way he said it. All these years later, I still remember the way he said it. And I was so out of my mind because I had been up all night writing that game. I didn't sleep that night. That I had a dry erase marker on my hand, and I wrote on the back cover of my laptop screen, I wrote YAC, short for "You Are Crazy," and that was good. I had a few coworkers who had made up some acronyms about going on vacation that were kind of funny. So I had a coworker who put on his calendar OOO, and I knew he was going on vacation, but I didn't know what OOO meant. And it looked like ooh, and I thought that he had a secret. He was going on vacation and doing something that he didn't want other people in the office to know about. Which is funny because I thought that he had some weird habits. I mean, he was, at the time, this was a little bit unpopular, and he was homosexual, and his partner also worked in the same office, and I thought that maybe he was afraid his partner would see, and he was cheating on him with somebody else. And so he only wrote ooh to remind himself, okay, it's time to go see this third person. Oh, or I thought maybe he was doing drugs. This was before marijuana was legalized, and I had a feeling he might try marijuana. I've never seen him do it, but I had a feeling he might. And I thought ooh stands for let's go hide and do some drugs, or let's go hide it with my new boyfriend. I thought that's what it meant. And a couple days later, somebody else also wrote ooh, and I thought, oh, come on, is this some kind of a cult or something? And turns out it was out of office. I happened to talk to another friend of mine. What's this ooh club all about? And he told me out of office. I can't believe how dumb I was. And then I had an old classmate of mine from high school. He was telling me how much vacation time he had, but he didn't call it vacation time. He called it TOP, T-O-P. And I thought, are you kidding me? And I thought he was bragging about how he would be on top of the world when he goes on vacation. And it turns out TOP is short for Time Off Program. And so that was that. It's kind of funny because now I know him as Top, because it was so funny the first time he said it. He loves to brag. I was trying to brag to him about the first time I ever kissed a girl, and he said IDC, but he loves to brag. He used to play poker online. He would brag when he would win. He used to brag when he did all sorts of stuff with girls. He was already on the moon when I was doing my suborbital flight, so he was bragging all the time. Okay, and speaking of meeting new girls, I used to have this philosophy, well, I still do. I used to have this philosophy that if I just mingle with 1,000,000 girls, even if just one ends up being my future wife, it will be totally worth it. So every chance I get, if I see a friend of a friend that I even remotely like, I would try to add her on Facebook and just say hi and try to do a little research on what she likes and see if I can strike a conversation. And I know that 999,999 times out of 1,000,000, she's not going to say anything, but I used to not care too much. Because I thought, if I buy 1,000,000 lottery tickets, one of them's going to win. I used to hold that philosophy. And then, most of the time, at least half of the time, the result would be she would end up blocking me, which is totally fine with me. I mean, it's like I said, it's a lottery ticket. But when she would block me on the screen, it would say, you cannot respond to this conversation. And, I would be talking to a friend of mine or a coworker of mine, and he would ask me, how did it go with that girl? And I would say, not too good. And I would respond, what is it? YT, UYC, I don't even, R, TTC. You cannot respond to this conversation. And he would say, I'm sorry to hear. I'm sure it'll go better next time. And I must have thousands of girls blocked on Facebook because I used to treat it like it was a giant lottery game. And I still do because there's nothing to lose. And, sometimes I'm bored on a Saturday. I need a break from my work anyhow. What the heck? So I don't see it as a problem, and at the very least, sometimes I get a little practice for when it actually does matter. So it's never a loss. Anyhow, so anyways, I love acronyms. I wish everybody would speak in acronyms. Thanks for watching.